So, welcome to another POFcast. I'm Rob Lancaster.
And I'm Minagano Kape.
And I'm David Vincent.
And this is breaking new ground for the POFcast, online and distributed across tens of thousands of kilometers of the globe. As a little while ago, David and I have taken a flight to the Antipodes and Australia. But a far more interesting flight is the one that Minagano has taken a few days ago to Bichibich in the Nanaam area of Greater Pibor, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. But as we've established in our last podcast, I don't think we can call it a tradition because we've only done it once, but beginning the podcast reflecting on something that has made us think of peace in the last week of our comings and goings wherever we are. So maybe can start with you, David.
Yeah, as you've mentioned, Rob, I'm currently in Melbourne. And the last 2 weeks, I went on a road trip with my family. We drove from Melbourne to Brisbane. And this is a distance of around 1,700 kilometers, something. So while driving, really, with the state of the roads and all that, it just really it made me think of peace. And I felt that what enables such a development or sort of a smooth drive is because it was Australia is a very peaceful country. And so I reflected and questioning myself, when will South Sudan be, or the roads in South Sudan be in such a state? So it's quite amazing to reflect that.
Minagano.
Well, for me, having been in Bichibich for the last 5 days, I think I was reflecting on the definition of the word peace itself. What does it mean? And it's the realization, or rather the reminder, that it means different things to different people, depending on your experience of life and the place you're in. To some people, it can be about the agreements and the political stuff, but to others, it's really having clean drinking water for the first time that feels like peace to them. So it was quite fascinating and humbling to see these different world views and just to realize we're in the same country, but our challenges are completely different.
Well, you've both mentioned practical components. I think mine is more related to the seasons, which is something that I miss a little bit in South Sudan, is the transition from summer to autumn, winter, spring, and so forth. And autumn in Australia is my favorite time of year, I think. And just the lights, the temperature, the colors, there's a peacefulness to the atmosphere, certainly around, not everywhere, but certainly around these parts of suburban Canberra where I've been for the last week or so. So different dimensions of peace across different contexts.
Yeah.
But today we want to focus on Bichibich, where you are today, Minagano. And we're lucky to be able to do this podcast today because you were meant to be back in Juba by now, but the elements have stranded you there. And one of the
people of Bichibich have spoken.
So it gives us this chance. But before coming to a little bit more on the experiences of the last few days, maybe we can take a few steps back. We've alluded to Bichibich, the Nanaam area of Greater Pibor in previous podcasts, but maybe just to dwell a little more on the background to this and take us back a few steps. So I don't know, David, whether you could give us a little bit of that context as to why the emphasis has emerged around the Nanaam area as a focus of some of our activities, and then particularly Bichibich and Wuno is the other side of the equation.
Yeah. And just before I jumped into a bit of a background, what just sort of occurred to me, which for the people who will be listening or watching this, if you imagine a middle of nowhere, and this is where exactly Minagano is sitting, and in the courtesy of Starlink, we're able to talk, and that is quite amazing by itself. That's a great achievement to be able to take the Starlink all the way. No one would know because there's no network or phone network, for instance, in that corner. So this is great, really. Now, the desire for to have presence in Bichibich or Wuno, I would probably push it a little back during the peer peace agreement that we kept talking about it over and over. Now, one of the resolution perhaps that came quite clear was it was the push for the Murle community or the Murle leaders, the chiefs, the youth, and the women to work hard with their youth or different age set to stop this sporadic attack. And over the years, as we continue to meet the intercommunal governance structures meeting, the frustrations keep coming from the Dinka Bor and also from the Nuer that these attacks are not stopping. And over time, that frustration grew, and often there will be retaliation. So, in one of the meetings, really, a question was put across very clearly that to the Murle people, what can we do? What can the rest of the community do to support you to stop these small attacks? And it became quite clear that that geographical vast area, no man's land, the most of the HZ youth are congregated in those areas along the Nanaam, which is the river that run across there. And so very quickly people began to talk about the hard to reach areas and the possibility of establishing some sort of a center, because where these youth congregate and where these sporadic attacks generate or start, there is no government, there is no services, nothing at all. And so that is how the dream of establishing the Nanam and Wuno came about, that it has been talked about. We want to open the roads, we want to have presence in those areas so that there is a direct engagement with the young people. And that's how the establishment of Beach came in. And thanks to a lot of different partners, especially the RSRTF, that are putting some money in, and the dream to establish Wuno and Bitbit came in. There's a lot of things that have been done, which I think we can get onto later. But one major thing that enabled this to happen is I can't call it the construction, but the clearing of the airstrip that enable a fast plane to land with some of the humanitarian support workers to be able to land in that area. So this is a big dream that has come from far, and no one actually believed that by today we'll be talking to Minagano from Bichibich. If someone think about that, and someone who knows the vast geographical location of this area is just quite incredible.
And it's been in a way, quite a frustrating process at times trying to get this moving, because we talked even in that first little piece on things that remind us of peace, of infrastructure, and the infrastructure to get out there in the first place to even try and do anything is very limited. It's limited seasonally. And so to get the teams out and working on some of the initiatives that we had in mind with the community, and then along the way, there was even more recently, once there was a little bit of momentum, there was then a mobilization from the Jonglei side. So all of a sudden, everyone, including the community, had to evacuate back out, and that set things back another month or so, I think, at the time. So somehow, in the midst of all of this, the progress has been made, and particularly, as you mentioned, David, this airstrip that was, I don't know what the word is, cleared, but more than cleared, because it has to be level to a certain degree. It's a kilometer long. I recall sending the specifications passed on from Mission Aviation Fellowship, who've been really supportive in this process, and thinking to myself, I'm not really sure whether this is going to be done properly. And then we had the initial flyover that happened maybe a month or a little bit more ago now, and the pilot said, yeah, basically it's fine to land, maybe a few potholes to work out, but basically this will work. So a really significant achievement. But that brings us to the other day when you all landed there, Minagano. So maybe you can talk us through a little bit just what's unfolded over the last few days there. It's a beginning, and we'll come to some of the challenges that lie ahead, but just to outline where things are at the moment and what the experience has been so far.
First of all, throughout the journey, I was so excited to see Bichibich because I think this is something that we have been talking about for a very long time. And when we were flying from Pibor, I was just my eyes was glued on the windows to see the area and the terrain. Bichibich is a beautiful place. It's flat land and lush grass, few trees, but it's beautiful. But most importantly, when we landed last Friday, I think it's the reception that struck me. There were so many people at the airstrip waiting for the flight to land. Apparently, messages had been sent to the different villages that the plane will be coming here for the first time, and some people walked for 3 hours to wait for the plane to come and receive us. So that was really fascinating and a very warm welcome that we have received from the villages here. And then and also one thing, the Mission Aviation pilot, he's very passionate about flying to Beach Beach because I also had a discussion with him before we could fly. That was also interesting. But the people, they were very excited because to them, one person was sharing that we were told a plane will come, but we thought you were lying to us. So now that we see, now that we see that finally a plane can land here, this really makes us happy. And they have shared about their excitement and the hope that this center brings to the people who are in these villages, but also the surrounding villages. Because what I have learned from the team here is that this Nanaam or the Bichibich area is quite wide in coverage. So when we talk about the center, some of the services that is here covers people beyond the nearby villages. People have to walk to access some of the little service that comes with the center. So that was really interesting. But also the team that have worked to put together the center. Well, I have so much respect for them because when you see uh, they are not so many settlements around, especially by the time they started to put together the center. This is from the stories they told. They said they came here and there was no one, so they have to send messages, and people started coming. But now it's a whole different case altogether. The people living around the center, but just the courage to come from a place that you know to a place that is very far, to a place that is considered to be at the front line of most of this attack. I think that is such a courageous act from the team who have worked to put together this center. Yeah.
And can you just describe a little bit the what's going on at present? So who's around? We've had different narratives at times in terms of what the appetite is of the communities out in the Nanaam area. Is there any cultivation going on? Some are saying, no, that's never going to be an emphasis for them early. Others say, oh, no, we do some cultivation. The cattle is obviously a factor and so forth. But what's the vibe you're getting from conversations with the community around where their trajectory is for this opportunity being expanded?
Yeah. Well, one interesting objective of our mission was really to try to relate with the community, to understand them, their cultures, their ways of life. And what we did in some of the days that we've been here is to just stroll around the villages to see their livelihood activities, to talk with them. And what we have seen that despite the fact that people are saying agriculture is not a thing for this community, we have seen farms. Even when we were landing, we have seen, we could see like the small farms around the airstrip. But when we also went to the villages, we see families opening up the land to start cultivating. The challenge was it has not been raining. for a very long time. So you will visit areas where people have started cultivating, but they're saying they're waiting for the rain so that they can finish clearing up their lands. And the main things that they cultivate is mostly sorghum. And I also think it's because these are the crops that have been introduced to them. There are opportunities to introduce to them other crops. It's sorghum and pumpkins. That is what they are producing. And I have realized women do so much of the work when it comes to cultivation, because in all the families that we have gone to, when we ask whose farm is this, who's cultivating, you'll find it's a woman who's clearing the land, and they're the ones farming, and the men seems to be more focused in terms of taking care of the cattle. And I think that's the big challenge that we have also been discussing in some of our engagement. But I understand the idea of cultivation seems to start picking up with the HSET youth, because when we engage with some of the people who are managing the center, they're saying the examples of now some HSET youth are deciding to open some small farms for themselves to start cultivating, which I think it's such a positive development, given that culturally the youth are not supposed to, they're not used to cultivating, they're not supposed to cultivate. So I think it's these small positive steps that can give hope to the people, and they're excited about the possibility of cultivating, because we had a meeting with the women, and they clearly said, we are waiting for the rain so that we can cultivate. And they are asking if we can also get them new crops like okra and nuts. So I think that is showing a good sign of interest in cultivating, and also reducing the overdependence on food distribution. But I think the biggest challenge that comes with all this is the question of security. Because just yesterday I was having a conversation with a young girl who helps at the center with cooking, and I was asking her if she has a farm. She said yes, she used to have a farm close to Gumruk, and I asked her if she's planning to cultivate this season. She said she wants to, but she's scared if their neighbors come to attack them, then they will burn everything, they will burn their farm, then it will be a waste. So to some extent there is some fear, given that they're at the front line. They are always scared that they may have to run anytime. So that lack of stability is what is also causing fear to the communities in terms of settling in and farming.
And what's the sense of the internal narrative that you've got in relation to that insecurity, that sense of insecurity, and the appreciation that part of that insecurity is a result of the Murle youth themselves who are perpetrating these attacks against communities in Jonglei? Is that, do you feel that that's there in the consciousness, or what's the sense?
Absolutely, it is. It is not. Yesterday, I had a very interesting conversation. The same lady who was telling me about the farm, because we're talking about the attacks, and she was telling me how the Murle are, the Nuer are killing the people, and how bad they are. But then I told her, I have gone to the Nuer people. They say the same things about the Murle. They say that you're killing them, you are abducting their children. So what do you say about that? So she went on and on to try to justify uh, the position of the people, saying that for them it's only 1-2 people who are going, and they will not kill the elders, they will not burn the houses. But for the Nuer, they come in group and they burn the whole villages, and so on and so on. So I think in one way, they still feel like they are being attacked in a more, they're in much more pain than the other side. But I really tried to explain to her also the story of the other side and how they feel, and the same challenges that they are facing because of the attacks that they're receiving from the Murle youth. Um, the bottom line is this circle of conflict between these communities have really destroyed the society, because you find young girls who are like 25, 20, they're already widows because their husbands are killed in revenge. And when they tell you the stories of how they get to run when they hear of an attack, how they hide and how they carry their children, it's really very sad to listen to. So we just have a community that lives in so much fear, and with that, it's very difficult to have development, sustainable development, because if I have to run every other time, so why should I do something that will last for years, because I don't know tomorrow it will be destroyed. So I think that is also affecting the thinking, long-term thinking of the communities here, unfortunately.
David, you were last in these sort of areas some time ago, or at least going back 2, 3 years and having similar conversations, maybe not in Bichibich itself, but across this area. So hearing these kinds of impressions now, what's your reaction, relating it back to your own conversations some time ago with these neighboring communities?
It's quite incredible to hear, and I saw some photos that Minagano posted, and some short clips here and there, and I think we are moving closer to the reality, which is not really achieving peace, but the possibility of having this, having that remote area for it to be turned into something. Because in the past, even just going, we would go to those areas and they would say there are people living here. There are no huts. You can't see anyone. But now, just to see the number of women and children and youth in those clips that I saw was quite incredible. And I was also very impressed, Minagano. There were several calls, WhatsApp calls with other communities, or let's say with those of Tutin, Motot, and that was just quite incredible to see that, and people talking and see what was happening. So I feel, yes, there is a lot of things that have been spoken about in the past, I'm very much encouraged for the efforts that have been put in by all the partners. But I think maybe we could probably, there's one personal story, or there's one story within all this work that we perhaps need to bring out more, that the establishment of Bichbich, the role that Kwang Puk, who is a Nuer, who has the role he had played in helping to establish this, I don't know whether the community even sees that or even know that, because this is one individual that is very determined, and for him to be in that area as one Nuer, I feel like that's already sends a strong message to the Murle community that this is possible, and the relationship is between these communities is very possible for it to move towards more sustainable peace in the long run. So I see now that I think the persistent, and maybe hopefully we can touch base a little bit on what next now, but I think the 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 challenge now is on the local government, the county government, in particular Gumru County government, to see how they can sustain the little um, development that has taken place, so that it can really serve the people that are living in Bidbid or around Bidbid.
It's interesting you mentioned around Kwang, because I think at different points in the process, albeit we've only made small progress at all along the way, but often there's been something about someone or a small group who are willing to go that extra mile, so to speak, beyond what is necessarily required of them in their job description, to make something happen and say, no, this is actually really important that we do this. And even for the team that went initially along with Kwang, it was at a time of insecurity, and there were some questions around whether um, it was fully safe to go. And they said, no, we've said we're going, and we're going to go, and they went, and it was fine. And yeah, so not taking those things lightly, but recognizing often that this kind of progress only happens off the back of those particular efforts.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think Kwang has been well received by the communities here. When we met him in Bibor, he has this there is this ostrich feather that the chiefs, yeah, the
Trib.
chiefs used to walk with. So he has been given this ostrich feather, and he's they call him the Sultan of Bichibich. So, but I think his courage is quite commendable to come this far and to live with this community and to work with them and basically the teams on the ground, because this morning we were even having a chat with Tut from UI, and he was so excited. He was like, "Ah, I can walk up to Beach and I come and take milk from here and go in the evening." And the way we know Tut, he can just decide to walk if if
Yes.
if he has people to walk with him all the way. So I think it's the courage of all the different individuals that make this work really move forward.
And this element of the connectivity as well. You mentioned at the outset the Starlink. We know that Elon Musk is one of the world's most controversial figures at the moment. But in terms of the opportunities that it creates, and these WhatsApp calls that have been happening across the borders now, I think there's been two in the last couple of weeks. Um,
Yeah.
and we've talked before about the intercommunal governance structures and how expensive and complicated is to create that space for direct exchange between the communities. And there's a lot more work that can be done on structuring these exchanges, but the ability now to have those channels on a more regular basis at minimal cost
Yeah.
opens up a whole new swathe of opportunities. But sorry, I think I cut you as you were going to continue before.
Yeah, maybe also to pick from what you said, the Starlink question, I think it has also made it easy for the people in Beach Beach to connect with the other locations, especially from the newer side. Because for a long time, people have been talking about Beach, but there was no direct interaction with the people in this area of Nanaam themselves. So that Starlink connection, it has given us an opportunity for the chiefs here. And in some of the meetings we had, they were so happy to say that we're able to talk to fellow chiefs from Walgak, from Akobo. And I think this is just the beginning of forging a relationship, because now they can be able to humanize the people in that part of the world. So I think everything is built on relationship, so it will become easier for them to even have conversation on how to solve conflict and so on. So it's such a good thing. And David, you have also touched on the question of the local government presence. I think this is one of the biggest challenges that the center is facing here, because two compounds have been constructed. There's a compound for the government,
Mm.
for that government administration, but since its construction, there is no government official that has been attached to this area. It's the head chief of this area that stays there to try to maintain the space. And I think
Mm.
there has been ongoing conversation. In this mission, we came with two government officials, and I think they have really also noted this gap, and they think this is an area that they need to continue advocating for, in terms of sending someone to permanently, a government official to permanently stay in this area. But also the absence of law enforcement, I think that will also come together with the presence of the government, and that will give the citizens some sense of assurance that the authorities are here, and it will encourage more people to come and settle around the area.
Mm.
So as we look forward, then maybe starting with you, David, from a little more detached from the immediate experience of Bish, what are the challenges in consolidating this and sustaining this? And then maybe we'll look back to you, Minagano, on that question as well.
My worst fear, Rob and Minagano, is that we have raised the community expectation as the first landing has taken place now, and we keep talking. So for me, is how do we manage community expectation? Will there be more landing? Will there be more charter flights that goes that way? And that challenge really is to all the partners, for us really to not forget. Like we are easily caught in a tendency where we do one thing and then we tick the box and feel that this is a task completed. So, for example, Minagano and the team from different agencies that have spent those days in Bichibich, when they come back, what happens? What conversations are we going to have internally within our own agencies on how we can ensure the sustainability of that center? So that's really my fear. And we know obviously the dwindling space or the funding here in South Sudan. In order to maintain such a work, we need uh, more more resources to go into it. My second challenge really is on the government itself, where I feel, as Minagano has already mentioned, that there is a local administration unit that has been created, however makeshift it is. It's something that would have represented the government there. And our hope was initially, as part of the plan, then we have the Payam administrator that moves in there. We have the chiefs, we have the youth, and we have a small police unit that was meant to be attached as well. All those things, we don't have resources for it to sort of move forward. So will the government really make it as a priority? That's another biggest question and a challenge that I foresee for us to sort of look at. So these are the two things that I think we need to, especially the agencies, we really need to commit so that whatever that we have started doesn't go to waste.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah, indeed, sustainability is such a big question that we really need to address moving forward. Or I think we have already been talking about it. And what does it mean even to the communities? And these are conversations that we have tried to push during our mission here, and also making it clear to the community that their contribution does not have to be in terms of money. It can be in terms of their commitment and efforts in maintaining some of the establishments that are already here. And I think two scenarios struck me. We've been talking about water as a challenge in this location because there's one borehole that serves a big number of people. Some people walk for 2 hours to come and access clean water in this borehole. But we had a conversation with the women to ask them that you have said that water is an issue. How do we address that? I was impressed to hear the women said we need to dig hafirs. So to me, this is a sustainable way forward, because we know how expensive it is to construct a borehole and to sustain it. It will not stay for long. So the women openly say we need to dig hafirs. We just need the tools. And when we ask them who get to dig the hafirs in your community, is it the men or the women? They said all of us get to dig it. So that was very encouraging to hear from the women. And another example is this morning I was having a conversation with the management team, the center management team, and they're already thinking of offering basic education, maybe primary one classes to the kids who are around the center. And they are talking about, oh, how do we do that? How can we get support for that? And our conversation went into the direction of, oh, okay, what about all of us who are walking around this area? We contribute something and we just send the education materials, because they needed chalks and they needed blackboards and they needed books and pens and pencil probably. So these are small things that I think we need to push. But of course, the bigger things are important, which is the government presence in those areas, and we need to really continue with our advocacy as partners. But also I see some some level of interest has been communicated by the government in the different engagement, but that needs to be backed by action. And this is something that we really need to be very serious to follow through to ensure that these commitments are implemented from the government side, because we cannot do it alone. We need the support from all the sides.
Mm.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of question marks hanging over this as it moves forward, but at least there's the foundation that's there that can be built on if we can build some momentum. I guess we're moving into the rainy season now, so the accessibility by air will be reduced for the coming months, but there's a little bit of hope built for what can be done in the next dry season, and all of this links in with the previous. POFcast theme on the sustainability and what that looks like concretely. Um, so this is definitely a theme that we'll need to loop back on in 6 months or so. And maybe those listening can also prompt us to inquire what's going on if we don't come back to it, so that we're held to account for precisely this question, which happens so often in South Sudan and in development in general, right, David? This raising of expectations around certain things that are not followed through. So we'll look forward to seeing how it all unfolds, and we hope that we'll see you again, Minagano, before the next dry season, that you won't be stuck there for the next 6 months.
I'm
But
looking forward.
if you are, have fun, enjoy, and maybe to conclude, just a bit of a shout out again to friends at Mission Aviation Fellowship, for their support, because these folks are always almost as passionate as us about getting these things working and making it possible. And it makes a huge difference when often the default can be to look for reasons not to do things in South Sudan. So huge appreciation to them. Final word to you, Minagano. So you wanted to add something?
Yeah, before you conclude, this center, we have given it a new name because we've been having this discussion of local ownership of some of these initiatives. We don't want it to be called humanitarian hub. So we had a discussion with the communities, but this name mainly came from the women, and it is called Kuyubuza. So
Kuyubuza.
so Kuyubuza means I am resting, or I am relaxed. I am now relaxed. So I think this came from a long conversation with the women to ask them, what does this center mean to them? How do they call it in their language? What would they want this center to be called? And they came up with several names. One was translating to I am alive. And finally, they agreed to use the Kuyubuza, which means I'm resting, because to them, they think because of the water that is here, because they have received food, now they don't have to walk long distance to look for water. They don't have to walk up to Gomruk to look for food. Now they are at least able to rest, and they're able to settle and cultivate in their home state, it was a beautiful process, and I think it's a beautiful name. So we've been telling everyone this is Kuyubuza, not a humanitarian hub.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful.
And that's a great note to finish on, Kuyubuza. In my mind, it links back to my idea of autumn. I'll call autumn in Australia now Kuyubuza.
Kuyubuza.
People will want to know where Bichibich is. I don't know if on Google Maps, while you're there, you can name the place and take some pictures, which will enable Google to verify that it exists. Then by the time this podcast goes up, people will be able to Google Bichibich potentially. If not, we'll have some more information about everything that's been happening, as always, on the POF website, www.pofss.org. And also there's some pictures you can find on our X handle. So enjoy the rest of the day there, Minagano. We'll sign
Thank
out
you.
from the evening here, and we'll look forward to our next conversation.
Great. See
Thank
you
you so
soon.
much.
Bye.